Hey everyone, this is Daniela from the Obstacle Doc, and today we're going to talk about thoracic rotation and how we can try to optimize it through a couple of different movements. So thoracic rotation often can be coupled with thoracic extension. So if you have not already, I would highly recommend checking out our thoracic extension video, specifically for overhead mobility. But for thoracic rotation, we want to be really mindful because our thoracic spine is what carries the most of our rotation through our spine. Our lumbar doesn't actually have that much degrees of freedom from left to right. Our neck obviously does, but once we get into the middle of our body, that is all of our thoracic spine. So if we have limitations going from one side to the other, that is usually going to be found through either the spine in the thoracic region or through the muscles that are attaching to the thoracic spine. So to work through thoracic rotation, we can do it one of two ways. We can go laying on our side, or we can also go into quadruped. These are not the only two different ways that we can do it, but these are the ways that we find are most friendly to start with, especially as you're working into a warm-up, working into an exercise, or just need a little bit of a mobility break throughout your day. I'm gonna use 2 foam rollers because that's what I have accessible. You can always use a yoga block or a pillow or multiple pillows, whatever you have available to you to bolster yourself into the right position. So what we're gonna do for laying down is we're gonna lay on our side, we're gonna support our head, and we're gonna extend our bottom leg and support our top leg. So this is to lock down the lumbar spine in this forward plane. I'm then gonna take my arms out in front of me, and as I breathe in, this is very important because of the ribs articulation with the thoracic spine. As I breathe in, I'm gonna reach my arm over, and then I'm gonna exhale and close it back down. Now, the goal of this is not to go as far as I possibly can. I'm trying to keep this locked down. If I went as far as I could, I'd obviously come off of the bolster. So if I'm trying to open through my thoracic spine, I might not go as far with my arm because that's going to be more of a chest stretch than an actual thoracic rotation moment. So you can take that as many times as you want. I usually recommend at least 5. 10 is great. More is fine if you want it. So we're going to start here. Inhale, open, rotate, and then exhale, close back down. So these are called open books, where you're starting with your hands together. You're going to open through that plane and then come back in. This is something you can do laying on your side. You always want to even yourself out, not only to keep yourself even per se, but also to assess as you're going from your left side to your right side. Your left side might feel a little bit better or worse than your right side. So we want to make sure we're keeping tabs on that and also moving through the spine in both directions. You can always do an open book also in a seated position. So this could be as easy as doing this in your desk, or if you want to go into a half kneeling position, you can stick your arms straight out, rotate over, or go on the other side. Being in a kneeling position does take a degree of holding yourself in hip extension from the bottom, not fighting through the hip flexor. So that is definitely a progression that's going to work not only on the thoracic rotation, but through the lower body as well. We can also play with thoracic rotation in a quadruped or a hands and knees position. The reason that you'd want to do this is really for control, but this does, again, require more strength, more stability through the hip complex because you are trying to negotiate how much or how little your lumbar spine is moving when you're trying to isolate the thoracic rotation. All right, so we're going to go in a hands and knees position. We're going to stack our shoulders over our wrists, hips over our knees, and you are going to actively press the ground away. Then take your right hand behind your ear, elbow out to the side. I like to lock this down so that I don't overreach using my shoulder girdle instead of my thoracic spine. So we're hand behind our ear, and as we breathe in again, we are rotating just as far as we can take it from our mid-back. And then as we exhale, we're going to take our elbow down to our left wrist, opposite wrist. So you breathe in, open only as far as you can, not reaching up to the sky, and then taking it under. You can also do this in a thread the needle. Again, just be mindful that you're not overreaching from the shoulder, and then you can make it more passive by taking your arm all the way under. What you want to look for is that your hips aren't rocking from side to side. This is, again, where that degree of control comes in. So you're not allowing your hips to play or move underneath you as you're going through in the middle of the back. If I want to take this more across my body and make it a little bit more fluid, what you can do is use a foam roller, and you're going to tuck this underneath your arm. So I'm going to go into my thread the needle position. My hand's going to go on top of the foam roller, and you're gonna be able to roll the foam roller away from you and roll it back under. So I'm just reaching through that crossed over rotation to facilitate greater movement. So if we ever want to take this up another level or progress this into more functional movement or more sport specific movement, we can always add these open books thoracic rotations into a half kneeling posture, or even load it with things like bands and weights. So for our half kneeling posture, you're gonna take knee over your ankle, hip over your knee, arms are out in front of you, and you can open across or even over the bent knee. This can be done against a wall to create more stability. You can also start to add in things like bands, where you are holding at one end and you're opening through to use the musculature to actually take you into controlled rotation and back without snapping it forward.